to Smash Writing, and today we're going to be talking about the movie Red, White, and Royal Blue. To really focus there. Afraid my speech impediment would come back. But it is our final movie for LGBT plus run that I've been doing. And with all that said, let's dive in and talk about it, shall we? The movie opens up where we meet the two families. We have the royal family on one side, and the main character focus is Prince Henry. And on the other side, we have the representatives from America, the president's son, Alex, and Nora, I believe her name was. I'll check it. But they're coming over represented for the royal wedding. And we learn right away that Henry and Alex do not like one another at all. But as the wedding goes on, Alex gets drunk and goes over and starts talking to Henry, who's been trying to avoid him. And one thing leads to another, and that 75,000-pound cake comes tumbling down on the two of them, and making an ass out of both sides of the spectrum. And it's really bad on the president's side of the ball, because it's election year coming up, and this is a distraction that they don't need right now. So we meet the PR woman named Zahara, who tells Alex, and very bluntly, that he'll be going back to England right now to play nice with the prince. And while they're both taking passive-aggressive shots at one another, they are pulling it off. And while they're visiting the hospital, they hear what sounds like gunshots, and the prince and Alex are shoved into a closet together. Henry finally asks him, "Why do you not like me so much? And what did I do to you?" And Alex explains to him that a few years back, Henry was a bit of a prick to him, and then looked at his butler, Esquire, I'm just going to go butler, and tells him he needs to get out of here right now. And we find out from Henry, though, that at the time that this all happened, he didn't want to be in the public eye. He had just lost his father. He was having a really bad time, and he misheard what Alex heard. What he said was, "I need to get out right now." The shooting ended up being a false alarm. It was a kid with fireworks. They're able to go about their visit to the hospital, but they do loosen up toward one another. It even invites Henry to his New Year's Eve party. Henry doesn't really want to go, but he's like, "I'll see you there." And he goes back off to America. And we meet his dad, who tells him, "You kind of got to get that chip off your shoulder. You are now a member of the elite, despite the fact you still think of yourself as coming from a blue-collar working family." And then we meet Miguel, a former love interest kind of deal. They weren't really a love interest, but they fooled around. And the tension is still there, especially coming from Miguel. And he starts texting with Henry. It's what starts with texting and light joking back and forth. Then they start talking about interests that they share and have in common. And then the texts go from fun teasing to, like I said, fun teasing to stuff they have in common to late night phone calls. And I love how it's edited here. But it is, while all this is all going on too, we see that he wants to be involved in his mother's campaign, specifically with the idea of winning Texas. Sahara tells him, "Don't worry about Texas, stop focusing on that. If you want to help, get Prince Henry to your New Year's Eve party." And Henry comes. And he's a bit of a fish out of water, but he does loosen up a bit, and he gets him out on the dance floor, where they share a moment when everyone is dropping low to the song. It's midnight, and time for the kiss, and you see Henry get a little bit upset whenever all these women start pulling Alex for kisses. And he leaves, and Alex chases after him. And this is when Henry comes out as gay to him by kissing him. And then he leaves the country. He's out. He's not even returning text messages. And it's kind of upset Alex because he wants to talk this over. And he's talking to Nora, I believe her name is. God, that's not going to be her name, and I'm going to be completely wrong. And she tells him, first off, she called it. And secondly, talk to him. They're going to have a prime minister dinner. Talk to him then. And he does. He uses the Secret Service to isolate Henry. But before he does that, though, he tells Miguel, and on pretty much they plan on winning Texas. then he goes off to go see Henry, or to go set up the thing with Henry, where he gets him alone in the room and they start making out. And the Secret Service woman walks in on them. They try to act all natural, but she busts them. But she keeps quiet. They meet up later on that night, at midnight, after the party's over. Or some brisk lovemaking, we'll say. And we find out, after all that Henry's gay and Alex is bi. And they're going to keep seeing each other casually, because Henry makes it known he cannot be out about this. And then invites him to a polo match to watch him play polo. And we get another fun little edit back and forth between Henry playing on the field and them two playing in a changing room. And they sneak off to Paris, I believe, to spend more time together. And they get to know each other a bit more. Henry talking about how sometimes he longs to just be out of this life and to be an anonymous person in the world, while Alex wants to go into politics. He wants to represent people like him, to have someone to look up to, and he wants to make a real change in the world. And Henry goes, toward the end of the date and everything, Henry tells him that as much as he would love to, England owns him, and he can only be himself for short moments of time. Alex finally does go back home, where we learn that Miguel ran a report on Alex saying that they're going to win Texas, which pisses the mom off. And they get into a bit of an argument because he really wants to focus on Texas. You are a Democrat. You are not winning Texas, my man. But the mom relents, and she sends him off to Texas to start camp, to focus his attention on his ideas to try to win the state. And we see him working real hard at it with back and forth emails he's sending with Henry. And everything's going real well, and we finally arrive to the DNC convention. Henry shows up right whenever Alex is arguing with Miguel over the story that Miguel ran. And he pretty much calls him an asshole, and he's done with him. But Miguel saw him while they're doing that. Henry arrives, and those two head right upstairs, in plain view of Miguel. Boy, that's not going to come back to haunt them. But not that night. That night, they get to share a lovely moment together. And they're awakened by Zahara in the morning. And they're both still asleep in bed. And Henry tries to hide in the closet, but is found by Zahara. And she starts flipping out immediately. Like, no one better see you two leave. And she tells Henry to not only just leave, but leave the country. But this does inspire Alex to tell his mom. She takes it much better. But she does give him some advice to figure out what Henry means to him and what this relationship means before they go further. And to tell Dad. And the dad and everyone else takes a vacation with Henry to their family lake house in Texas. And his dad gives him a bit of advice because we see Alex is falling head over heels for Henry. And off the back of his dad's advice, he opens up to Henry. Not just about how much he likes him, but how much he can't wait for the two to be seen in public. And he's about to drop that L word when Henry rolls off the dock into the water and swims back to the house. And that night, when Alex goes to sleep, Henry bails back to England and is avoiding all contact, even telling his sister he had to break things off with Henry, despite the fact that you can tell that he really does love Alex. And Alex is breaking down. And off the advice of Nora, he flies to England. One way or the other, he's going to get his answer. And they get into it a bit, and Alex tells him that he loves him, and he's not going to leave that house unless Henry tells him to leave. And Henry does not want to tell him to leave. And he takes him to the museum, a place that means a lot to him. And they share a dance in the museum. And Henry promises that as long as Alex can be patient with him, he will be brave for Alex. Before seeing him off, he sees him off to the airport. Henry gives him his family ring and Alex gives him the key to his Texas house that he's been wearing around. And everything seems to be going splendidly. So now it's time for the fall. Henry wakes up the next day to complete panic going on from the officials because their emails have been hacked and dropped on Reddit and covered in the newspapers, and all hell is breaking loose. And the butler confiscated his phone, his laptop, his sister's phone, his sister's laptop, and there's no contacting Alex. Alex, meanwhile, is watching this too. Of course, it was Miguel who hacked their emails and ran the report, although he's denying it. And Alex gives a great motivational speech about how they should have been allowed to come out on their own time, but he loves him and will always love him. And he hopes that Henry is watching. This is where Zahara pulls out her wild card. She's been having affairs with the butler and calls him and like, unless you don't want to see any more of me, you're going to put Henry on the phone. And hearing Henry in distress brings Alex all the way to England. And they get a meeting with the king. He's been putting it off. He wants this to blow over. He's ready to deny all accusations, and Henry says, not a chance. And he is further fueled to come out whenever a crowd of support swarms the palace. And him and Alex officially come out together to the crowd. Now we jump back to the stateside. It's election night, and it's all down to Texas. And the least believable thing in this movie happened. Texas flips blue, and the mom wins the presidency. And the movie ends with those two riding bicycles to Alex's Austin house that he's been talking about throughout the movie, and the movie cuts out from there. And that is Red, White, and Royal Blue. You are just perfectly framing my face there, aren't you, buddy? Anyway, there's something to be said about taking an old formula and just twisting it a little bit. There are hundreds of rom-coms, thousands even. You just pick a random channel. I'm willing to bet you can find a rom-com on sometime that day. But by making it two guys, and you're still keeping the formula of one of them is from a working class family, one of them is from the elite family. They're kind of enemies, and you turn them into lovers. But by doing so, you open up so many different avenues and so many different ways that you can carry things, right? From just the scenarios that you can put them in, the way they talk to each other, the way they flirt with each other, the different ideas of how things can go wrong to how things can go right. And they really pull it off quite nicely in this movie. And a big part of this is the chemistry Nicholas Galitzini and Taylor Zakor Perez have together. These two guys throw themselves into their roles here, and they're having so much fun with their scenes and working together that chemistry that they need to pull off a relationship is picked up in spades and become a truly believable couple by the end of the movie. And it's those two, like, they smashed it in this movie. They knew what had to be done, and they pulled it off to a T. Then you add in someone like Juan Castano, who played an excellent foil for them, the jilted lover who's getting payback. He did well with all he was only seen like 3, maybe 4 times. And each time it's like, oh, you're going to be a threat. And then when it finally comes, it's like, you are a bastard. You have a bit of a mixed response with me from the beginning of this movie where you're trying to showcase them as enemies. It's like, yeah, Henry is a bit of an ass toward him. But for the most part, Henry's doing his best to try to avoid Alex at the wedding. Well, meanwhile, Alex comes off as an impotent child who got drunk at this party and made a scene. So it's like you could have leveled them two out a bit more on the enemy side of it, so it doesn't just seem like Alex is the worst of the two. The biggest flaw in this movie is there's no way Texas is flipping blue. I'll believe it. I will get behind you if you tell me the American son has fallen in love with a British prince. I'll follow that. I'll believe it 100%. I'm here for it. I'm not here for Texas flipping blue. Prove me wrong this year. It is an election year, but I ain't buying it, especially coming off of their relationship coming out in that election year. Not a chance. But at the end of the day, this was a really heartwarming movie. There was a lot of moments that were truly funny. And it was really sweet. I'm willing to give this movie an A. And with that said, like I said, this will be dropping on the 29th, I believe. One more day of Pride Month. So I hope everyone enjoyed the Pride Month. For those who came out, congratulations. Truly, round of applause. It takes a lot of courage to do something like that. And I hope you carry that courage and bravery into the future with you as you start your journey into the new life for yourselves. And for those who are out, I hope you had a great time and keep that momentum going too. And with that said, have a good day, evening, night, afternoon, whatever, wherever you are. As always, bye-bye.